Hey everybody, Rob here. It's time for a couple of stories from the ProRevenge archives. First one, took a year, but I sued the unsuable. Let's jump right in. So after a year-long battle, this finally came to a close. Maybe not my revenge, but revenge on my behalf. A little backstory. I bought a house about 5 years ago, and in 3 years, flooded 3 times. It never flooded in the 40 years before. Thanks climate change. Finally, after the 3rd flood, my wife and I were financially able to move out and sell the house for a loss. We search around and find our dream house, or so we thought. After living in the new house for about 6 months, we noticed something very peculiar. Whenever it would rain hard, the bathtub would backfill with sewage and the toilets wouldn't flush, so we called a plumber. The plumbers were awesome and told us that our sewer lines had broken between the house and the city sewer line, and while we could try and spot fix it, we would probably need to replace the entire line. Ouch. Having just dumped a bunch of cash on a new house and taking a loss on the old house, we said to try and keep it as cheap as possible. They dug up where the line was broken. Broken is an understatement. The line had all but dissolved. We were going to have to replace the whole line, about $5,000. Not the best time, but okay, let's do it. Once they exposed the line the best they could, I got a call from the plumbers. The line has broken up so badly, they cannot find where the residential line ties into the city line or tap. Now, the homeowner is responsible for the residential line, but the city is responsible for the tap and the main line. I ask the plumber what is needed. He says we need to get the city plans and dig to uncover the tap. More digging equals more money. At this point, it's been 2 weeks and I just want to shit in my own house and take a shower. Okay, dig the hole. They dig a 4-foot by 4-foot by 10-foot hole and find nothing. We double check the city's plans and they are right on where the plans say the tap is. Now we have to deal with the city. We call 311 as directed, and after sitting on hold for 3 hours, a city official sends us the same plans with the location where we dug. We call back and say we already dug there and there is no tap. Getting nowhere with the city, my wife finally goes down to City Hall, and after spending a vacation day hanging around waiting for someone, she finally gets in to meet with an official. Let's call him Richard. Richard prints off the same plans we have already been given and says we need to dig where it's marked. My wife takes out her phone and says, "Look, it's not there." At this point, he mutters to himself and takes out a pen and draws on the plans, marking the actual location. It shows the residential line doglegging from the original drawings and is about 10 feet west of the initial location. It was apparent that he doesn't want to waste his valuable cushy government job time on my wife. It was pretty obvious he just made something up to get her out of his office. Plumbers come out, dig a second 4-foot by 4-foot by 10-foot hole, read more money, and surprise, surprise, the tap isn't there either. Fun. Back to the city hall and another vacation day wasted waiting for Richard. At this point, we don't want another hand-drawn map. Someone from the city needs to come out and mark where this damn tap is. They come out and I burn a vacation day to wait around for them. To their credit, they got down in the sewer, did some digging around, and mark a new spot between the 2 big holes. Finally, a real location. Plumbers come out and dig a 3rd hole. And if you think they actually found the tap, then you would be mistaken. At this point, the entire backyard is destroyed. Piles of dirt everywhere. The lawn is dead. The trees are dead. It's ruined. Our beautiful new house's backyard is literally shit. Back down to Richard's office, another vacation day burned, and we are livid. We remain calm, but insist that we must have not been tied into the city's main line. There was no tap. Now you might be thinking, how did we not know? 6 months of sewage just piled up in your backyard? In the backyard, there is a large dirt mound that had been turned into a nicely landscaped forest. Lots of room to absorb the sewage that only 2 people would produce. But if it rained hard, the dirt was saturated and would backfill the bathtub and the toilets wouldn't flush. Richard doesn't accept responsibility, but does send out the contractor who did all the work for taps in my area. The contractor comes out and I get the full story. 2 years prior, while the previous owner was doing improvements and not living in the house, the main line of the sewer was replaced. Basically, they slide the new tubing into the old tubing underground and then go in and install new taps for each house. Since no one was living in the house, they couldn't get into the backyard and told the city they did not service our house. I am furious. It's been 3 months, $20,000, and all the wasted time and vacation just because Richard was too lazy to do his job and make one call to the contractor to sort it out. Now, remember how my first house flooded 3 times? I learned my lesson dealing with people, and once we knew we had to talk to the city, we recorded everything. Every phone call, every email. I videoed the contractor and his explanation, everything, and all obtained legally. In my state, you have to have both people's consent to be recorded. He installs a tap, and I take the first shower at my house in 3 months. I am ready to act. I go down once again to Richard's office. I show him everything and want to file a claim. I agree to cover the cost of the residential line as that is my responsibility. However, I want the city to reimburse the cost to dig the unnecessary holes. I think I have a good case. Pursuant to our city, we had to file a claim before starting any work and provide 3 estimates in writing to file a claim. Since none of that was done and could not be done after the fact, Richard denied the claim right there. Left without words, I walk away completely defeated. I perk up on the way home after calling my wife and being reminded that I have some lawyer friends. Surely one of them could help or know someone who can. Unbeknownst to me, my state has something called sovereign immunity. Basically, you can try and sue the city or state, but it will be thrown out immediately. And Richard knows this. No credible lawyer will help pursue this case because they know I would just be wasting my money. I am pretty much SOL. After months of calling around to try and find anyone to help, I have resigned myself to defeat. Almost a year goes by. The loans I took out are about to start coming due, and I have no idea how I am going to pay for it. All communication with Richard and his office is blocked. I have also tried his boss and crickets. I tried going back down there, but Richard refused to meet with me. I finally reach out to my council member in a last-ditch effort. I include a synopsis along with all the evidence I have. I don't expect much. 1 hour after hitting send, my phone rings. It is my council member, and she is livid about how we were treated. She has a meeting scheduled with the head of public works for later that week. She doesn't promise anything, but says she is going to fight for me until they kick her out of the building. After the meeting, she calls me on her way back to the office. The head of public works has accepted full responsibility. She wants receipts for everything. The plumber, pay stub showing the vacation we took, phone logs from the time we spent on hold, the quote from the landscaper to fix the backyard, all of it. She has them all in her inbox by the time she makes it back to her office. That was about 3 weeks ago. Yesterday, I met with my council member at her office. Thank you so much. My wife and I cannot repay you for all you have done. It was my pleasure. We chit-chat for a bit. Here is a check for what you are owed. This is so great. We can pay off the loan and finally get someone to fix our Wait, this is much more than we need. You forgot to include emotional distress. I added it in for you. Wink. Oh, and if you ever have any issues, you won't have to worry about dealing with Richard. He no longer works there. Just come to me. I have become good friends with the head of public works. Oh my god, you are literally the best person I know. If there is anything I can do, elections are in the fall, maybe you could turn out and vote? So I went home, paid off everything, and the landscapers are coming out next week. Oh, and I am volunteering on her re-election campaign. Thanks for reading. People like Richard give government employees a bad name. It's nice to see a councilwoman like the one in this story though, who was actually there for one of her people. On to our next story. Get me fired? Say goodbye to your bonus and promotion. Let's jump right in. This happened a good long while ago. I was in high school and got a job at one of the big box stores in the computer department. This store chain had an in-house technician department, which was always where I wanted to go. After busting my ass in sales for 2 years, putting up with rude customers, silly rules, and all the other glorious trappings of retail job, I finally got a chance to be promoted to the technician department. It was not as glamorous as I thought it would be. I quickly found out that most of the repairs consisted of running the pre-packaged antivirus suite, updating Windows, and doing data backups prior to wiping computers clean and reinstalling them. I always liked tinkering with hardware more, but since 80% of customers had laptops and those repairs were deemed too complicated by corporate, we would just send the laptops out to get repaired by the third-party vendor. It was still better than sales by a long shot, and we had a great team working in the technician area, except for one dude. Let's call him Mike. He always behaved like his crap smelled like roses. He was technically a lead technician, and even though that just meant he had a little more authority, he had access to a corporate account to arrange shipments of computers to and from our store. He was acting like he was the manager of the department. Nevertheless, our actual manager was a splendid dude that took care of us, and as such, Mike's douchery did not bother any of us that much. Fast forward a little, and our awesome manager found a much better job. This opened up a spot for manager, and since the whole store supervision was going through a shakeup, the general manager was fired for embezzlement, and all the people he hired, 90% of managers, were under review. This led to everybody trying their hardest not to f**k up. And the new general manager decided that since our department was one of the best in the district, he would not try to hire an outsider, but will promote from within. Now, Mike was working at this store for almost 10 years at that point, and a couple of people that started working with him as sales associates were by this point managers and assistant managers. One of them, Brittany, was an assistant manager in charge of customer services and checkout. One of the conditions for Mike's official promotion to manager was to keep the #1 spot in the district performance-wise. One of the key metrics was the rejection rate from our third-party vendor. If we mistakenly sent them a software problem to fix, they would charge us extra. Mike started obsessing about the numbers, especially when it came to the rejection rate. He insisted that we would spend extra time to confirm issues even when there were recalls from manufacturers for these items. I hated this bureaucracy, since it meant that people needed to wait almost the maximum allowed time to get their computers back. So, a few times I skipped the extra diagnostics when I knew for sure the problem was hardware. One day, Mike decided to do an audit on all outgoing machines and found out that I've sent 4 units skipping his extra checks. He told me that he will write me up for it, but when he tried, General Manager told him that he is not a manager yet, and I have shown to the General Manager that I followed the corporate procedure in diagnosing these units. I thought that was the end of this, but I was sorely mistaken. Mike hated that I showed the GM that Mike's procedure was inefficient and that he was denied power over me. About a month later, I got a call from Mike asking if I could come into the store on my day off because there was an issue with a customer. When I came in, I was greeted by Mike with a shit-eating grin, and he told me to wait in the back and not to work on any computers. After about an hour, Mike and Brittany come in and ask me to head to the front office. They started an official write-up process and claimed that I have made a mistake creating a backup of customers' data and have placed a DVD with no data on it into the box that was returned to customer and then wiped his PC clean. I knew that it was bullshit since I always copy the data to an external hard drive, run antivirus to make sure that nothing bad got copied, and then burn DVDs. Yet, when asked to check the external hard drive, Mike said that due to my negligence, I was not allowed back in the tech area. He went to check the hard drive and said there was nothing on it. At that point, I knew he was bullshitting, but him and Brittany were hell-bent on completing the write-up. I have asked for a senior management to be present and was shot down again. Turns out, general manager was on vacation. They completed the write-up and told me that due to the egregious error that cost the company tens of thousands of dollars, I was not allowed to work in the tech room and I would be relegated back to the sales floor. I told them to shove it and submitted my resignation on the spot. I later found out that a week later, they gave the customer the data that was on the hard drive all this time. Mike simply erased the DVDs. I grabbed a DVD RW by mistake for that backup and waited for the customer to come back and complain. I have also called the corporate HR line and told them what happened. They said that since I quit with a letter of resignation, they would not launch an investigation, but they have received and recorded my complaint. Through luck and the fact that I was a good hardware tech, I landed a job at a shop that did hardware repairs a week later and started in another week. Turns out, this depot was the service center that covered the entire district, and they had the master contract with the big box chain where I worked. Since I have worked as the tech in that store, I was more than familiar with their labeling and ticketing system. For tracking purposes, the label included the store and technician number. After a couple of weeks, I gathered some goodwill at my new job and started trading the units with my colleagues to work on as many units from my old store as possible. Over the next 3 months, I made sure that every single unit sent in by Mike would come back with an extra charge. Also, it turned out that Mike, since he was in charge of shipping, would sometimes steal other technicians' tickets to boost his personal performance numbers to secure that manager promotion. Well, that bit him in the ass hard. There was one week in particular when he sent in over 15 units out of 20 to get fixed, and 15 units came back with an extra software charge. I have also kept detailed records that proved that Mike did not follow his own policy of extra checks. When the performance figures came out for that quarter, store crashed into 5th place from number 1. Mike missed out on his promotion and a big bonus that was promised to him. A good buddy of mine from the store got the manager position a few months after that, and I have explained to him how to reduce the number of software charges to almost 0. So he looked like a superstar. Mike was first relocated to lead technician, then he was either let go or he quit, I'm not sure. Last I heard, he started his own mobile technician business that folded after a year. What I didn't know is that this whole incident with Mike f***ing up led to the general manager to review everything Mike did, including my write-ups and dismissal. As it turns out, they did not even register the write-up since I quit on the spot and buried it. The only way general manager was able to find it is because of the HR complaint that was filed against both Mike and Brittany. General manager was not pleased that they went behind his back to get rid of someone and fired Brittany. He was a very decent man who called me later that day and apologized and even offered me my old job back. I thanked him, but I was making more money at the new place and did not have to deal with customers, so I passed. People who like to cook the books like Mike generally screw themselves over in the end. I'm pleased that you were able to nudge forward his inevitable demise. I want to thank both OPs for posting their stories to the ProRevenge subreddit. You can visit them at the links in the description below. Please go there and give them both an upvote. Once again, this is Rob from Karma Comment Chameleon saying thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share it with your friends. And we'll see you in the next one.